I would like to introduce you to our speaker here. And first of all, I wanted to just say thank you again for coming to this series on aging wisely. And hopefully we're going to be even wiser after each of these. But I think your being here tells me you're wise to start with. So I'm going to give you some credit right there. In the wings, hopefully you saw the list of our series. And I know some postcards also went out. But I wanted to be sure you know there's 3 parts to this, and Michele will be providing all of those. And so my hope is it'll work out that you can come to all of those. If not, we are going to be recording these, and they will be available on YouTube. Or if you come and you say, you know, I'd really like to hear what she had to say again, hopefully they're on YouTube. Or you get excited and you say, my kids need to hear this, or whatever, you know, because I have had people leave and say, yeah, I need to get my kids to watch this and listen to this, kind of. So anyway, I hope that, and let me know if you have questions, please, about any of that. Well, let me go ahead and introduce our wonderful speaker. I think she's worked the room a little bit, so some of you have probably talked with her already. This is Michele, is it Magner?
Magner.
Okay.
Hard G.
And I'm going to read you her bio because there's a lot to it and I won't remember it otherwise because that's part of getting older, right? Michele has a passion for connecting with people as we navigate the adventures of aging and caregiving. As an experienced family caregiver with many years in the senior living industry, she understands the challenges we are facing as we care for those we love. Michele sets people up for success so they thrive in the caregiver role, not just survive. Michele has earned her MBA, Master's Certification in Gerontology, and is a Gerontology PhD student at UNO. She is a certified life coach, certified dementia practitioner, and certified conscious aging facilitator. In the fall of 2024, Michele will be adjunct professor at Creighton University teaching long-term care administration. She has volunteered with the Alzheimer's Association for 9 years and supports the Dreamweaver Foundation, making wishes for people in senior living come true. She continues to share fresh content and ideas through her Inspired Caring podcast and programs, in addition to private and group coaching. Let us welcome Michele.
Will you pray with me? God, thank you for the opportunity to gather today. Our lives are busy outside of these walls, and we are grateful for the opportunity to slow down and have this moment together. Please help us also slow our busy minds and be open and curious to give us the space to learn from each other. Give me the words you want me to say and take away the words that you don't. We know that the ultimate opportunity for mindfulness is in prayer with you. You are always good. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you. We're going to do an exercise, but in reverse from where Jody started us. If you are age 40 in this room, please raise your hand. All right, Vic or Katie, how far do I have to go back?
I'm 25.
25. If you're in your 20s, raise your hand. Okay. 30s, 40s, 50s. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100? This is fun to do in assisted livings, actually. Now, raise your hand, please, if you do not feel your chronological age. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around the fact that this is where we're at. Yeah, depending on the day, depending on the ache, depending on the pain. So we have our subjective age, and then we have our chronological age. And one of the things that I have learned over time is that I believe from the moment we are told we can no longer trick or treat, we start complaining about getting older. I don't know about you, but I have heard a lot of people in their 20s and 30s complain that they are old. Okay, here's the thing. If we had been born in 1900, the life expectancy for a man was age 50. Now this was not that far long ago, 1900. The life expectancy for a woman was age 24. What? Because of? Exactly. So the new current in USA life expectancy is around age 77. If we start complaining about getting old in our 20s, Vicar Katie, and we're living to 77, 80, or 90, we will complain about getting old for up to 7 decades. The majority of our life. So this is just our first invitation to be rethinking how we're thinking about aging. It is inevitable. It's the one thing that is inevitable. We hope, right? God willing, let's start knocking on wood, that we get to do, and we do a lot of complaining around it. I love these images of a woman looking in the mirror and reflecting back to her is the younger version of herself. And that is presumably her daughter in the background. So it's just, again, this invitation to be thinking about what does it mean to be the age that I am currently at. And there's a handout on your table. We made 40 copies. If we need more, we can get more. This is for you to take home. We're going to talk a little bit about this. But when I turned 50 years old, I'm 52, people would say, well, you don't look 50. And I would say, thanks. Well, you're not acting 50. Well, okay. Like, how should I be acting? So none of us have a user manual. I think in the last few years, what we've learned is that there really are no rules anymore. So we get to decide what each age means to us and what we want it to look like. I've started lying up. I tell people I'm 59. They're like, ooh, you don't look 59. You look amazing. I'm like, thank you. Lying up. It is weird being the same age as old people. But we've established that pretty much once you're over 15, you're categorized as old. So today we're going to talk about mindfulness, definitely. And I really just want to challenge your thought processes around aging and what it means to be certain ages, because you get to decide for yourself and create for yourself the lives that you want at every age. We'll talk about how to integrate some mindfulness into our daily life. This book, The Longevity Economy, it was written for people who want to sell us stuff. First of all, advertising is really powerful. We're going to talk about that. But the longevity piece, the fact that we are living longer than ever before, and we have systems that are in place that are not designed for us to be getting this old. So it's no wonder we're so confused. I think aging is already one of the most confusing things that we do anyway, as human beings. But we have a system in place that's really designed, our medical care is designed for acute care. It's not designed for these long illnesses. So I'm excited to teach this course at Creighton this fall about long-term care, the ecosystem of how we are caring for people as we age. And then this is part of my belief of why we think and feel how we do about aging, is that every system in place hasn't really been designed for us to be living as long as we are living. So of course, it would make sense to be complaining about being old in your 40s if the life expectancy was 50. But we have this narrative that continues to be passed down about aging. There's a story of two neighbors who were arguing, and one of them got so fed up about what the other neighbor was saying, he took him to court. And the judge said, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to go home and write down everything you have said about your neighbor, every nasty thing you've said about them. Put it on slips of paper, tear it up, throw it out, come back tomorrow, and I'll issue your sentence." So the neighbor did the thing, they go back, and the judge says, "Before I issue your sentence, I need you to go back out and pick up all those slips of paper with every nasty thing that you have said around your neighbor." Which of course is impossible. It's like that quote from When Harry Met Sally, like you can't take it back, it's already out there. So again, when it comes to aging and how we are aging, there's an opportunity to be a little more mindfully aware around the language that we're using around aging. We still are here. Every day we have a future until we don't. And so the language that we use is so powerful, and there's a narrative around aging that we have been handing down from generation to generation, but it's our time and it's our turn to change the language. And now that you have heard this, you are going to catch yourself and your friends and your family complaining about getting old, and you'll go, "Oh, we're supposed to change our language around this." I'm gonna wash that gray
Right out of my hair.
Yes, right out of my hair. Advertising is so powerful. These people have a fast track to our subconscious minds. I mean, when was the last time we heard this ad, y'all? A long time ago, right? $191 billion has been spent on anti-aging advertising, and that is expected to grow to $421 billion by 2030. The target audience for these anti-aging dollars in advertising are people 25 to 35. I have a 19-year-old daughter using wrinkle cream. Okay, so again, this is just our opportunity. This is why we feel the way we do about getting older and about aging. There's a lot of other factors and components that go into it, but just to be aware of the advertising, the marketing. Help, I've fallen and I
Can't get up.
I mean, can't get up. Those of us that work in senior living, we know that women that look like this do not fall down. Right? Most of the time. Depends on how many cocktails we've had. But again, the advertising, the messages, what is coming for you and your brain, be aware of it. Because they want us to buy into this narrative of what it means to be and look and how we should be acting at certain ages. There's a reality to it. And we're gonna go through a lot of reality in the next series of conversations that we're gonna have together. But the advertising is important. And now we all have computers in our back pocket. Who is on social media to keep up with the grandkids, like just poking around? Yeah, well, the ads are coming for us there too. So just be aware. And then you get to decide. You get to choose for yourself what you want to believe and buy into. I did my practicum for my master's program at Engage Wellness. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's through the UNMC. There's a building called the HICSA building, Home Instead Center for Aging. Yes, you go there.
Our doctor's there.
Your doctor's there. So brilliantly, in the basement of that building, there is this fitness center, and it's medically supervised exercise, but nobody knows about it. It's unbelievable to me. So this is like the doctor has written you a prescription to go work out. And it's a beautiful thing because people are in just street clothes, everyday street clothes. You know, you have a cup of coffee, you pop onto the treadmill for 20 minutes, you come have a cookie, you go push some weights around, but like you're in community with people and you're exercising, and it's so great. But the foundation of that program, and I don't work for them, it's just where I did my practicum, are these 6 dimensions of wellness. Well, I was looking at these 6 dimensions and I thought, the one that stood out to me, there's emotional, occupational, physical, social, intellectual, and spiritual as the 6 dimensions of wellness. If we emotionally aren't feeling well, isn't it harder to excel in the other areas of wellness? Like if emotionally it's hard for us to get out of bed or leave the house or go to that gathering, it's harder for us to operate. So that emotional aspect of wellness is so important. This is a very depressing slide about how much chronic disease we have in the United States. Pretty much once we hit this certain milestone in age, the chronic diseases start to add up. And these are the top chronic diseases in the US. We have cancer, heart disease and stroke, and then type 2 diabetes. And it's trillions of dollars in healthcare. But part of my theory on this is that I'm watching my peer group isolate themselves, even in their 50s. People are saying, well, I don't want to go out, or I'm too old for that, or I can't do that anymore. So instead of modifying things that we enjoy, I'm watching my peer group start to isolate, and loneliness impacts our health in tremendous ways. So it's so important to continue to come to events and gatherings like this so that we're in community with one another. So this little girl in the middle is me, and she did not know that in 10 short years, she would be the primary family caregiver for both of these wonderful women. Those are both my grandmas, and that's my little baby sister. That little baby sister is now almost 50. I had no idea, but it was the greatest privilege of my life to be the caregiver for these 2 women. So I helped them with everything from making decisions about living arrangements, driving, when was it time to move, through their end-of-life care. I also had the privilege of caring for both of my in-laws. My mother-in-law lived with dementia for 12 years before she passed away at age 75. So young, in my estimation. And then my father-in-law was her care partner, and he ended up with a terminal cancer diagnosis, and statistically he checked that box of he passed away first, which is so unfortunate, and we know, again, statistically is quite likely. That to be said, I have been on this caregiver trajectory and then working in senior living for so long, I've seen the impact of family caregiving that it can have on people and our health. And so it's just something to have a heightened awareness around as we start to talk about mindfulness and how we want to operate in our day. Can you tell which of these ladies was a little more footloose and fancy free and who was a little more uptight? Yeah. Grandma Masters in the plaid shirt. This woman had meticulous notes for everything in that house. Everything. Grandma Ferris was the one who, my granddad built me a tree house in the backyard, and she let me drag anything I wanted out of her house into my tree house. It was fun. She was pretty laid back. Both of them lived till almost late 90s. Yeah. They were in really great shape. So the family caregiver outline, which I think impacts us as we are aging, because so many of us find ourselves in that role as a family caregiver. This first set of blue dots, this is kind of the trajectory of just how things go with an aging body. And then the red dots represent the family care partner, the family caregiver. So it's just something I really invite you to be mindful of as we're caring for each other in community, or a spouse, or siblings, or potentially aging parents. So how do we prevent the chronic disease? How do we really focus on feeling better about aging now that we're aware that it's this narrative, it's the language we're using, it's the advertising, and it's just an older way of thinking? How do we help us prevent the chronic illness and have a better aging outcome on a day-to-day basis? I believe it really ties back to that emotional dimension of wellness. Because again, if you just can't even every day, and it's hard to get up out of bed, it's going to make it harder for us to do these things. So what the CDC says, and we know this, nutrition, exercise, get sleep. We have to have that emotional well-being to do these things. And when I was at the Engage Wellness, I did a survey, and just like you in this room, they too felt like it's sort of hard to wrap their heads around their chronological age. Most people just felt better than they thought they would at their age. So we kind of have this life expectations, and then we've got this very messy reality where things don't always go how we want them to or hope they will. But we can always count on change with every passing year. I'm about to become an empty nester in 2 years. And then Val and I were talking, he's stepping into retirement. Like, there's just always change happening in our lives. But we have the benefit of neuroplasticity. And this is where the piece about mindfulness really starts to heat up and get exciting. So neuroplasticity, our brain is essentially made from plastic-ish. I mean, it probably is real plastic now based on what's on in our food. But it has this ability to heal itself, and it has the ability to retrain itself. So I think about my daughter, who's 19 years old, and she still loves to swing on this swing set. And it's her way of meditation. She puts in her AirPods, and when her body is in motion, she feels like her brain can calm down. So that's so self-aware at age 19 to know that. But when I think about neuroplasticity, I think about when we have a fresh snow out in the backyard, and she is trundling that new path out to the swing set with her snow boots on, right? That's what we're doing with neuroplasticity. We're creating new neural pathways in our brain. And with awareness, when we learn more, we can do different things. Has anybody had friends that have gone to rehab for any amount of time, stint of time? I mean, like, you're having to retrain your brain with this physical therapy, occupational therapy. So you, at every age, we have the opportunity for neuroplasticity. People say, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I say, well, you're not a dog. Humans can learn new tricks. Okay, so very quickly, close your eyes. Just stay seated, unless you're gonna get dizzy. Close your eyes. And we had a beautiful meal just now. Think about a food that if a plate of this food showed up in front of you, you would be pretty excited to eat it. Like, if you can imagine what it smells like and would taste like as you take those first bites. Just thinking through what that food is. All right, open your eyes. What are some of those foods?
Broccoli.
Broccoli? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to be.
But you gotta have the dip with it.
Well, you gotta have the dip. Broccoli with dip. Yes, ma'am. What else? Anything else?
Banana cream pie.
Banana cream pie. Ooh, that gave me chills. I have to make that. What else? Tiramisu. Yes.
Mashed potatoes with chicken noodles on top.
Oh, mashed potatoes and chicken noodles. So good. So any others?
Bacon.
Bacon, yeah. Hashtag bacon. That's it. So the beauty of the exercise is to remind us, did anybody's mouth start to water just a little bit when you started to think of these foods? I don't eat too much meat, but if you put this in front of me, my mouth is gonna go crazy. Our brains are so smart. Our brains are wired to keep us alive and keep us healthy, and so those digestive juices get going in your mouth just thinking about something. Like, it's not, banana cream pie isn't even here. But and the potatoes and noodles aren't here, but just thinking about it, our minds are like, I'm in. Yes. But this is the beauty of neuroplasticity. You can train your brain. Your brain is smart, it's ready. So we want to think about, is our mind full? Or are we being mindful? Two different scenarios. So mindfulness is that quality of being conscious and aware of something. I feel like at age 45, I woke up. I don't know what it was. I don't know what's happening in my brain and in my body, but I just felt like I just like woke up, became more conscious, aware of what it is I wanted, and I took myself off of autopilot in a lot of areas of my life. And mindfulness is also a mental state achieved by focusing that awareness on this present moment. We're sitting in this room together. Our tushes are on the seats. You can hear the air conditioner around us. That is mindfulness. That is the baseline of mindfulness. So how can it help you? It helps us regulate emotions, become less reactive. It can decrease our rumination, that 3 a.m. wake-up call that sometimes we get. That's not the biological wake-up call at 3 a.m. But just the worrying, having a greater attention to our tasks, and actually having a mindful approach to eating can reduce our caloric intake. But mindfulness can help us in all of these aspects of our life. The gal in the red is my stepmom. These ladies are 79 to 89 years old, and they live in a continuing care community out in California. And they're a hiking group, they're a hiking club. So when we're thinking about mindfulness and being present in this moment, I think that when these girls were younger, it would have never occurred to them that they would be hiking at this chronological age. But they're like, you know what, today I feel good. So let's do it. Let's take a hike. And this also opens this little door to us of who are our aging mentors. And this is kind of where that sheet of paper comes into play for you to take home and just reflect on. Who are your aging mentors? Who do you feel like in your life showed you what aging well could look like? What did you want that to be like? Who are your aging mentors? What is your vision of aging? And how do you want to create that for yourself? So we're going to do a quick mindful exercise. Just sit up a little bit. We've had lunch. We're halfway through this presentation. We're starting to settle in a little bit. So we're going to sit up. So this, the Navy SEALs use this. Do we have any people who have served in our armies, military here? Thank you for your service. Navy SEALs use this exercise. And we can too. We can do this when we're mad at our granddaughter. We can do this when we're mad at that other person at the stoplight. So we're gonna breathe in for 4, hold our breath for 4, exhale for 4, and hold our breath for 4. If this does make me feel a little lightheaded sometimes, so at your discretion, please be mindful of that. Okay, so we're gonna breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. So take a normal breath. Let's do it one more time. We're going to inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. You can breathe normally. So this helps us tap into that parasympathetic nervous system, which is a mindfulness practice, and it allows us to reset. So when you can feel your body getting triggered, because this is what I keep explaining to people that are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 100s are us in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, right? Like we keep taking ourselves with us along this aging journey, so we still get mad. Because we're human beings, we still get upset, we still get hurt, we still get frustrated. Like there's no us and them, we're all in this together. So having a practice like this will help you just kind of reset yourselves if you are in a situation that you're feeling frustrated with or triggered by. It's a great mindfulness practice. And I have so many timers set on my phone. It's pretty incredible, but I literally need the reminders to have a mindfulness practice because that gives me the gentle prompt. One of the things that we know with aging is if you have a greater sense of resilience, it is really beneficial in older adulthood. So a mindfulness practice is really just giving yourself some credit of what you've been through in this life and what you've accomplished and what you've achieved. It's really easy to continually look ahead to whatever the next obstacle is in our lives, but you are all incredibly resilient human beings. You have been through unimaginable feats and you've accomplished unimaginable, wonderful things in your lives. So resilience is a factor in aging well, and it helps, and all of these things are opportunities for a mindfulness practice. Having a positive perspective, which even if it's just catching ourselves, oh, we don't complain about getting old anymore. That in and of itself is a mindfulness practice that you can work in. Faith and prayer, having purpose and meaning. We have to have purpose in our lives at every age. It doesn't matter if you're 102. There has to be sense of purpose in our lives. Even if it's just making it to the kitchen for that cup of coffee. That might be the purpose for the day. But all of these things are opportunities for a mindfulness practice in your daily life, and it adds and helps build that resilience in older adulthood. There's a gentleman who spent 12 years at Harvard. His name is Sean Acor, and he spent 12 years at Harvard studying happiness. And happiness, I'm sure his parents were like, whoa, that's a lot of money on happiness. He has a fabulous TED Talk. He's very funny. I wish I want to work on my sense of humor like his. He's very funny. But what he learned, he had a study of 80-year-old men who tested initially as he had a study where he tested 80-year-old men and they tested as pessimists. And then after a 21-day practice of gratitude, very short practice, 2 minutes a day, writing down 3 things that they were feeling grateful for, by the end of the study, they were testing as low-level optimists. Just like resilience, helps us in older adulthood, so does optimism. And it can be hard to be optimistic. I mean, and it's an election year, so believe me, I know that this is a challenge. But there's so many wonderful little things in our world and in our life. This is such a magnificent time to be alive. Could you imagine being here during the Dust Bowl? I mean, awful. No, thank you. I will take this environment. So this 21-day practice of gratitude helps build that neuroplasticity. It's going to help you as you begin to shift your thoughts around aging and what that means and looks like. 3 things every day. have them be new things, so that, because it's very easy to say, my family, my family, my family. So let's look at 3 things just in the last 24 hours. What was something that you were feeling grateful for? It could be something really little, like I'm grateful that hail didn't mess up my roof. It could be something like watching a bee. Fascinating creatures, those little bees. It could be something larger. I have done this in 2 different nursing home environments, and residents had no electricity growing up. They had no electricity in their homes, so they feel very grateful for electricity. But the gratitude practice is a brilliant way for you to build up that neuroplasticity and shift our thoughts around aging. The slide says, say hello to y'all's grandmas in the 1970s. This is just, I see you, you know, I'm 52, this is confusing for me too, this aging business. I don't look how I used to look. I actually think I look better than I used to look. Thank you very much. But aging is complicated, and I just invite you to be gentle with yourself. Offer yourself some grace and some self-compassion, and get really curious just about, you have a future. Again, until we don't wake up, we still have a future. So getting curious about, what do you want this next chapter of your life as you step forward to be like? You have an open invitation to make it whatever you want it. And if your kids get cranky, they can call me. I don't think this is Pollyanna. This is not rose-colored glasses for me. I'm really fascinated with aging and how we're all aging differently. So I feel very blessed to be able to continue my studies in it. And I'm really looking forward to coming back. We have 2 more conversations to explore different subjects and have some harder conversations. But I'm very happy to have been able to be with you today. And I'm very open to questions or comments or thoughts. If there was something that jumped out at you, please feel free to ask it, because this is my favorite topic. I would keep us all here all day talking about these subjects. Yes?
Do you have a practice, or, I mean, what do
I do?
You're such an expert on this, so.
Yes. The question is, do I have a practice? So I have multiple things that I do. One is I have this podcast called Inspired Caring. It's a free podcast, so you're welcome to subscribe to that. It is a lot of my own experience as a family caregiver, and then I have experts that I'm interviewing around the country. The other thing I have done is created 2 different online programs. And so I work with people primarily who have loved ones in senior living. I do some private work with people, but then most of my work is around helping senior living communities support those family members. Has anybody had family members in senior living? Yeah, so we have a lot of expectations about what should and shouldn't be happening, and there's just a lot of unmet needs sometimes that are happening. So my office was across from the ice cream parlor at Brookstone Meadows. So I heard just a lot of family conversations, and it's a lot of our anger and frustration is fear and pain, just about the grief. And I know that we were talking about grief earlier. So my practice is I have these online programs, and I support people who have loved ones in senior living. Yeah. And I speak, and I'm going all over and sharing this message about we can do it. Yeah.
How often you do your podcast?
I try and put episodes up weekly for the podcast.
Really? Wow.
Yes. So there's 160 episodes out there right now. I've been doing it for 3 years.
Okay, that's probably more than I want to know about.
She said it's more than she wants to know. Yes. 162 episodes. So, you know, there are episodes of there where, like, my mother-in-law had had a rough day and I just felt sad, so I just went and cried on my own podcast. Like, it was a hard day. But then there are days when there's just so much joy and delight, and I'm always trying to inspire hope. And it's called Inspired Caring because the goal is to inspire someone. You know, you have an external message that kind of gets you motivated. And then caring, I just think that we want to care for each other. Yeah. Yes?
Tell us about the class you're going to be teaching at Creighton.
The class I'll be teaching at Creighton, it is in the Arts and Sciences program under the Health Administration program, and it is long-term care management. So it's about the entire ecosystem. It's really for juniors and seniors. It's an elective, and it is about the ecosystem of everything from in-home care, the history of Medicare, the history of senior living, through senior living and end of life and grief.
I hope you cover a lot of advocacy issues with, especially our state, supporting people that have to go on to Medicaid when there's nothing available for long-term care. And
Yes.
even long-term care for people who can afford it. The facilities can't stay open because it costs so much to take care of someone, and they have to take some Medicaid, that's required,
Correct.
and they just can't make it.
Right, so we're talking about advocacy issues for people with different payment sources for long-term care. I have been really pleased to be part of we recently passed in Nebraska, the governor signed it into effect, a bill for caregiver tax credit. So I was really pleased to be part of that advocacy at the Capitol. But yes, my goal with this group of students, there's gonna be 15 to 20 of them, I want them to want to pursue gerontology. I want them to be excited about the future of the industry, about any aspect of care for us as we're aging. So my hope is I have great speakers lined up, and then just to inspire them every day to want to keep going in this field. And then hopefully they'll choose something in the healthcare, health administration. Yes.
Was it taking care of your grandmothers that started you on this trajectory, or did you just always like old people?
So what started did you always like old people, or was it taking care of your grandmothers that started the trajectory? Yes, and I think yes. Like, one of my favorite movies as a kid was Grumpy Old Men.
Oh, no,
I mean, such a good movie. But maybe that's interesting for a 10-year-old to like that movie. I don't know. So yes, when I was caring for my grandmothers and I was their care partner and advocate, I realized how comfortable I was in a senior living setting. And my peer group, because I was having babies, I was age 27 to 37 at that time. So I was hauling my babies in and out of assisted livings, and I realized how comfortable I was there. And my peer group thought that was odd. And to me, again, like, I feel like we are all peers. And I know you've got 40 years on me, but I still feel like we are peers, right? Like, I respect the age and the wisdom and the experience that each of us is having in our lives. And I just feel like we're all the people. So I just felt very drawn to be in that environment. And I stayed home. I was blessed for 12 years with our kiddos. And so my first job back was at Country House Millard at 155th and Q as the office manager. And being in that building, I loved being in that memory care with the residents and their families. Loved it. Because when someone is living with dementia, wherever they are on their journey, like, if I messed up, I would get a fresh start because I didn't remember. So if I said something wrong or did something that they were frustrated with, it gave me the opportunity to go, okay, don't do that. Let's try this. Yeah. So, and I think I genuinely believe this is just what God is wanting me to do and calling me to do. And I feel glad to know it now. It seems maybe bananas to be going into a PhD program when you're 50, but I love the idea of being a geriatric gerontologist. Because by the time I'm done, Yeah.
Speaking of that, can you help us understand, all of our medical care has been through the Methodist health system. And when we realized, oh, we're at this age, we should get in with a gerontologist. And nowhere in the Methodist health system is there a gerontologist. So we finally found one at UNMC.
Mm.
And can you help us understand why are there no gerontologists?
Why are there no gerontologists? So I have my own,
few.
yeah, there are so few. I have my own theory on it, and I think it's because, again, it goes back to that old narrative. We just are not used to living this long. Like we're entering new territory where I'm hoping that at med school they're encouraging people into this field. But because in the past we all dropped dead, there didn't have to be as many gerontologists. So now, I'm hoping again that they will start to encourage people to pursue the field. As I will be a social gerontologist, not a geriatrician, physician, doctor.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what we had to find.
yes,
And there's very
it
few.
is. It's hard to find people. I mean, and we have to remember that when we have studies that are out there, a lot of those studies, aren't on women. Like some of the original older studies about certain disease processes or biological things, a lot of the studies were done with men, not necessarily women. And same thing, a lot of the studies are on people under 65. Well, how's that gonna help me when I'm 85? So there's just a lot of, it's exciting, it's an exciting time because there's a lot of territory to cover.
I'm not sure when, but my husband just did have an evaluation with the geriatric
Clinic.
evaluation at Methodist. So I don't know if that's just, if they're fairly new. I know it took 6 months to get into it, but
Okay. Yeah, so maybe go to your health system's websites to see and type in geriatrician or geriatric and see what comes up. Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions? I really just, my wish here today is that as you leave, you're just standing a little taller, you're feeling good about being wherever you are on this aging journey, you're here. I'm excited about it, and I really am looking forward to the next time that we get to be together. We're gonna talk about, your stuff. We're gonna talk about your stuff, yeah. So thank you very much for having me.